Hello from Emma at Cognected. Here are some tips to help with good sleep. So if you're sleeping too much, sleeping too little, or just not sleeping at all, hopefully these tips will help you to increase your quality of sleep. So let me tell you a bit about sleep to start off with. So the idea is if you imagine your body to be like a battery or an iPhone, the idea is that when you get to 0% battery and you've used up all of your energy for the day, it will switch off, a bit like a phone. It goes off and it needs to be recharged. If we get good quality sleep and we are charging at our optimum level, then we should be waking up with, ka-ching, 100% battery. If we can wake up with 100% battery, maybe like this, 100% battery every day, we will wake up feeling like we can have a good day, or perhaps we'll have some thoughts around feeling positive or feeling energized for what the day brings. The problem when we don't sleep very well is that we never wake up with 100% battery. We never feel really recharged and refreshed, and that impacts on our mental health and how we feel. So if you wake up and you have 10% battery for a whole day left, you might wake up feeling like you don't want to get out of bed or that you can't face the day. There will be lots of thoughts attached to how you're feeling and your battery life for the day. So our aim today is to go through some tips to help increase how much charge you have in your battery when you wake up. Ideally 100%. Let's see how we go. So here are some tips, and I'm going to use a patient example as well to illustrate how this all works. So if I think about a patient I've worked with this week, her ideal sleep time, the time she'd like to get to sleep by, is 11 o'clock at night. So I want you to have a think about the time that you would like to be able to fall asleep by. Then have a think about what time you would like to wake up by. So my patient would like to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. This means she would get, if she could fall asleep, 8 hours of good quality sleep that will ka-ching allow her to feel 100% recharged and refreshed with 100% battery. However, in reality, my patient is actually getting to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. So now have a think about what time you actually get to sleep by. So we're in bed by 11 o'clock and we're not sleeping until 2 o'clock. This means that my patient is lying in bed for 3 hours not sleeping. This is a main part of the problem, how long you're spending in your bed awake. Because if you're in bed awake for long periods of time, your brain starts to associate your bed with not sleeping as opposed to sleeping. Sleeping ideally should be an automatic process. The minute we put our head to our pillow, we should fall asleep and be in dreamland for quite some time. If this isn't happening, we might be doing things that are going against it, making it feel like a forced process. And the more we try and force it and get annoyed that we can't sleep, the less of an automatic process it becomes. So I'm going to teach you now some tips that are used in something called sleep hygiene. And the idea is if you follow these tips and you follow them well and strict and you keep at it for a long period of time, we're talking a week to 2 weeks at least, then you should start to see some shift in the quality of your sleep or the duration of your sleep. So let's get started. So number one, to get good sleep, you must only sleep when you feel sleepy. So a bit like my patient, she's going to bed at 11 and she's not even tired. She actually isn't physically tired to sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. So only go to bed, my patient should only be going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock when she feels she's able to hit the pillow and get to sleep straight away. Now, she might actually say that she isn't getting enough sleep because if she goes to bed at 2 and wakes up at 7, it's only 5 hours of sleep. But those 5 hours of sleep are likely to increase in quality, and she's likely to get the nice dreamy rest and restore sleep because she hasn't spent lots of time staying in bed where she wasn't sleeping. So if you're so drained your battery switches off and it's charging, then that's going to be better quality than if you're staying in bed and not increasing your need for sleep. You're not increasing your tiredness because you're in a relaxed state. So number one, get to that zombified, I can't keep my eyes open, I am so tired state, and only then enter your bed. Sometimes you might enter your bed and put your head to the pillow, and if you aren't asleep within 20 minutes, your brain's tricked you. You clearly aren't tired enough for sleep. So if you are not asleep within 20 minutes, then get out of your bed and ideally go into a different room or perhaps go downstairs. The reason being, we are retraining your brain to associate your bed with sleeping and not your bed with staying awake for long periods of time. Some people who I've worked with in the past and they've had severe sleep problems for 20 odd years had been reading a book in bed or on their phone in bed waiting to get to sleep. Now, if you have severe sleep difficulties or you've had them for some time, you must follow this strictly in order for it to start to work. So for example, if you were to get out of your bed and sit in a chair and read a book, that would be absolutely fine because you're disconnecting your brain from associating your bed with not sleeping. And only when you feel ready to sleep and you think you might get to sleep in 20 minutes, return to your bed. Okay, number 3 is to decrease the amount of caffeine, nicotine and high sugared drinks that you have, ideally 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. Why do you think that might be important? So all 3 of these things are stimulants that interfere with us being able to fall asleep. Everybody is different, so take my mum for example. She can have about 30 cups of tea throughout the day, and I've seen that she's had a cup of tea right before bed and still doesn't have any sleep problems. Take me for example, if I have a cup of coffee past 8 o'clock at night, I am not getting to sleep. My body is hardwired and buzzing from the caffeine. So again, if you're having really bad problems with sleep, try to follow these as best as you can, and there's nothing to say that when sleep gets better that you could have a drink closer to bedtime and your sleep be absolutely fine, as everybody is different. Going back to my patient this week, when I said to her, could you stop your vaping really close to bedtime? She said, absolutely not. I am not committed to doing that change. So sometimes it's about making small and sustainable changes. That's something that you feel willing and able to commit to. So in the case of my patient, she said, well, I want to be in bed and asleep by 11, so perhaps I won't vape 10 to 11. So she's trying to scale back the time that she's vaping, but not setting herself up to fail by saying I won't vape after 4 p.m, which is what the guidelines are saying, and is moving the time in which she's vaping. So if you manage to not have a drink an hour before bed, and this is good change for you, then start to scale it back gradually so that it's likely to be something you stick to. Number 4, train your brain. We've talked about this already. So only using your bed for sleep. So if you want to go on your phone or you want to read something or you're just not falling asleep in 20 minutes, please get out of your bed. Be in your room doing something different, sit on the floor, sit on a chair, or ideally leave the room completely. And what you want to be doing is engaging in some low-level activities. So ideally doing something like I don't know if this is boring to everybody, but maybe a low-level word search or a bit of mindful colouring, reading a book, things like that. Things that you know aren't going to stimulate your brain to get everything fired up and alert. So for example, reading a horror book might, for me, get me quite scared and a bit on edge. So you want to be doing things that feel like a little bit boring, perhaps some work or homework, something that's keeping your mind active so it's draining your battery more. Very nature of going down the stairs will be using up energy. Using your concentration will be using up energy. And the idea is that probably your battery is not 0% yet if you haven't gone to sleep. You might have 5%, 10%, 20% left in your body. So you really need to use that up in order to increase the need for sleep and your level of tiredness. How are we getting on so far? Does that make sense? Hopefully it's clear, and as I say, everybody's different. So perhaps when you look back at these tips, think about which ones feel achievable and easiest to commit to. And it might be you commit to some over a couple of weeks, and when you feel you've stuck with them, add the other ones in. Ideally, trying to do them all will have maximum results. Next one, no naps. So this idea that if you nap throughout the day, what are you doing? You are charging your battery. So lots of people say they can't sleep at night time, but they've been asleep for 2 or 3 hours in the day. So if you're charging yourself up during the day, what are you doing? You're going to not be at 0% by 11 o'clock or your desired time of sleep. You're going to have a lot more battery life that you're going to need to work off and drain out of your body before you can switch off. And this is why this one is absolutely key. No naps whatsoever. Now, I appreciate that it's easier said than done, because when I'm telling people to stay awake and to not nap and to feel zombified till you go to sleep, that can be very difficult. People tell me, well, sometimes I just kind of drift off and I have no control over it. So some such subtle changes, like sitting in an uncomfortable chair or sitting on the edge of a chair or a sofa if you know that you're feeling like you're going to drift off, or getting up and having a walk around. So trying to make sure that you store up that sleepiness and tiredness till bedtime, till your desired time of sleep, or the time you know you will get to sleep. And that might make things feel worse for the first couple of days. You might be feeling even more groggy and tired, but it's important that you stick with it and you know that this is part of the process. That when you feel so tired that you switch off and you're getting to bed the time that you want, then that's when you know things are starting to work. Next one, 15 minutes wind down routine. So this idea that at the moment your brain is associating going to sleep with not sleeping. So we want to get everything quietened down. So doing some nice deep breathing exercises. There's an app called Mind Shift, all one word, that if you search in Google, comes up with a blue and white face, and it's a free relaxation and anxiety app. And on there is a tense and relax exercise. It's 6 minutes long, so for me, somebody with a short attention span thinks, okay, it's not too long for me to invest my time. It's not too long for me to say, I don't have time to do this. And for example, in that particular app, tense and relax exercise, it gets you to tense different muscle groups of your body. So for example, it gets you to ask you to tense your fists like you're squeezing out lemons, okay? And really feel the tension and the blood rush into that part of your body. Then it asks you to do the opposite, to open up your palms and to notice the difference between feeling tense and relaxed. And that's a really lovely exercise to do before bed, because it's teaching your body to learn where tension is held in your body, but then it's teaching it to relax all different muscle groups. And in doing that and feeling open and relaxed, your body's going, I think it's time, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling sleepy. So that's quite a nice tip to add into your routine. But other things might be putting on some nice soft pyjamas, or ensuring that you've got nice soft bedding as well. That helps cue your body to know it's time for sleep. Tip number 2, bath time. I tried to draw a bath, but I think it probably looks more like a banana with legs. But ideally having a bath 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. The drop in temperature actually helps your body know that it's time for sleep. If you do have a bath, fantastic. And if you can have a nice bubble bath with some relaxing smells like lavender, then that is ideal. And sometimes bath time isn't always appropriate. So some of my patients have suggested having a hot flannel and washing their face in some nice warm soapy water can be just as effective. Number 8, no clock watching. Have you ever had it where you have tried to get to sleep and you've looked at the clock and you thought, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I've got work tomorrow, I'm going to be so tired, why can't I sleep? Come on, and got really frustrated with yourself. The more you clock watch, the more you look at the clock, the less likely you are to sleep. Because do you remember how I said right at the beginning that sleep needs to be an automatic process? In an ideal world, we just put our head to the pillow and we fall asleep. So all the time we keep looking at the clock, we are trying to force a process that's meant to be automatic. So it's counterintuitive, which means working against us. However, you do need to look at the clock to see if it's been 20 minutes yet since you've fallen asleep. And if you haven't fallen asleep, then you know you need to get out of bed. Number 9, no TV, iPad or phone 1 hour before bed. So again, some people, I've got friends that can watch Netflix in bed and still manage to fall asleep and stay asleep and wake up recharged. Everybody is different, but specifically if you're having problems with sleep, then this rule applies to you. So again, making sure we're not firing up our brains, we're not putting too much attention onto digital technology is really key. So telling your body and brain it's time to quiet down an hour before. So that might be, as I say, doing something like having the hot flannel, smelling some nice smells that make you feel relaxed, using the tense and relax exercise, so that your body's getting the message that it's time to slow down and calm down before sleep. Number 10, brain dump. So sometimes people tell me they can't get to sleep because they've got lots going on in their mind. Why is that? Why does our brain fire up with lots of thoughts and worries and things when we're trying to get to sleep? Well, just think about it. Put our head to a pillow. We want to just switch off. Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Our brains are going overload. They're going overload because we've decided that we're going to just settle down and not think about anything and go to sleep. But in the very nature of quieting down our body, our brain, sometimes we start to notice just how filled up it is with things. So brain dumping is quite an easy way of really emptying out our brain of all the thoughts and worries. So if you're worrying about things like, what if I forget to do this tomorrow, or I've got so much to do this week, or why am I thinking about something from the past, then just having a pen and paper by your bed and just literally dump in anything that your brain is telling you and tell yourself, these things might be really important, but right now I'm trying to sleep. I'm not going to forget about what I'm thinking about. I'm just going to choose to think about it tomorrow morning. Because sometimes our brain keeps telling us lots and lots of things because it thinks we're going to forget. So for example, if I don't write down that I need to remember a folder to take to work tomorrow, it will stay playing around in my head before bed because it thinks there might be a chance I forget to do it tomorrow. So either getting up and doing that thing, I could go and put that folder in my bag and it's done, the practical worry has been problem solved, or I might just write it down on a post-it note or a bit of paper and review it in the morning, so I know I'm not going to forget that. So if you've got lots going on, do some brain dumping. I will do a video on worry management as well, so if there's lots of anxious thoughts and worries, then there'll be another video to cover that. Next thing, bedroom environment. So making sure that you've got blackout blinds or blackout curtains that make sure your room is as dark as possible. Again, if you think about it, if everything is dark, then it means our body knows that it's time for sleep and time to switch off. Making sure you've got a comfortable mattress. Oh, hang on a minute, my dog is got something to say. Diggle, Diggle, come here. Sorry about that. Come here. Making sure there's no noise. So I guess if you've got a howling dog in the middle of the night, like Diggle, yes, are you doing the house for us to tell people that sometimes there's some noises that keep us awake? Yes, like you. Then it might mean we need to settle down the dog or settle down the noise and then try and sleep again. So noise, textures, making sure you've got some nice soft bedding can be key as well, because it senses for our physical body and it gives a nice physical feedback to our body to know it's nice and relaxed and ready for sleep. Number 12 is exercise. So again, if you are going to bed and you have lots of battery life still, a bit like my patient who's in bed at 11 but still has battery life that she needs to drain in order to get to sleep before 2, then doing some exercise in the daytime can be helpful to drain the battery a bit more. Even just the very nature of doing some walking or some mindful walking, I'm going to do a video on that, so that might be something that if you are still not sleeping, you might go downstairs and find a quiet space to do some slow mindful walking that can help drain your battery. Number 13 is eating right. So having breakfast, dinner and lunch is key to have lots of energy for the day anyway, but sometimes I find patients, if they're feeling down or anxious, it can affect their mood. I'm just going to put you down a minute, Diggle. And so even having a small snack can just cue your body to know different time points in the day. So somebody I worked with recently wasn't really eating at all, and we said, again, what's something small and manageable that you can add in? So they added in a breakfast bar just as a start, so eating something small enough that they can just open up and eat. Scientists have shown that drinking milk can be really helpful with inducing that sense of feeling sleepy, so warm milk at bedtime can be key. Why do you think it's important that we have breakfast, dinner and lunch in our day? So we've talked a bit about recharging your batteries, that putting in the charge can be not just having a good night's sleep, but actually having food, a bit like petrol in a car. We need to fill up throughout the day to ensure we've got maximum amount of energy. Also, if we go to bed, are you off now, Diggle? Okay. Also, also if we go to bed on an empty stomach, then our body is wondering what's going on. So imagine we've got little workmen in our tummy and they're saying, hey, are we staying on this shift because we haven't had any work through tonight? So that can also be a reason why we can't sleep. So again, making sure you have a meal a couple of hours before bedtime, or a little light something to eat like a light snack, or something small can be helpful with that as well. Okay, so that is all of the tips for helping with sleep. Hopefully you will find some of those helpful. As I said, maybe try a couple, think of the most easiest ones that you could have a go at, and ideally start to work them all in. And as I said, the sleep window is key. So just going back to, if you're not getting to bed by 2 normally, go to bed at 2. Stay awake as long as possible, and then you can work back. So then if you went to bed at 2 and you woke up at 7 and you've only had 5 hours of good sleep, you might still feel really tired for the next couple of days. But the chances are you'll be able to feel a lot more tired before 2 in the next couple of days. So if you do, again, try to go to sleep within 20 minutes, and voila, we are getting that good automatic, good quality sleep. And if you're still not falling asleep, remember, get outside the room ideally, do some low level exercise, drain the battery more, and try again. And eventually your body's, it's called circadian rhythms, your natural rhythm will start to hopefully, fingers crossed, fall into place. Thanks for listening. I hope I have helped you in some way. As I said, everybody's different, so do try, and I hope some of these things work for you. Thank you.